The group decided they were going to go, but this paladin warlock just was not content to just leave all this warrior manpower behind. I think he thought to himself, we could have an army. There's like 25 of these Warforged. They could come with us, and at least then we'd have better chances of defeating the wizard. So he actually used suggestion to convince the leader to tell his people to follow. He did. He cast suggestion. It worked on the leader. Now, this raised an interesting moral dilemma because one of the other player characters, who's playing a chthonic tiefling sorcerer, he called out the paladin warlock, and they had like a conversation about this, a moral dilemma conversation. And the sorcerer was basically like, hey, listen, you are trying to manipulate these people into potentially sacrificing their souls. What if they do die? What if they do lose their eternal souls, because you convinced them to come with us, and, that's it. This seems like it should be a choice they get to make. Hello friends, welcome back to GM Philosophy in the Morning. I'm the GM Philosopher. Today we're talking about moral quandaries and moral debates and moral conflict even in TTRPGs. I want to talk about this because there was a really cool, I think a cool situation that happened in my game last night, in my Monday morning game, which by the time this is published, that'll probably be a ways back, but I'm making it now because it's Monday and I played the game early this morning before I slept. It is snowy outside, as you can see. It is the middle of blizzard time. We still have a bunch of snow here in the Midwest. I'm at the laundromat doing my laundry. As you can tell, I have not done my hair in like 2 days because I've been living goblin mode in my house, just making YouTube videos and such and running games. Anyway, moral quandaries. We had a situation, and I'm going to tell you a story, guys. You might find this boring, but I'm going to tell you a story, okay? It's story time. So the group was in this situation where they had been trapped in a evil wizard's pocket dimension, and in this pocket dimension, it was a barren ash world, but it was very limited. It was basically 8 days of travel across, and that's how big the world was. It was kind of circular, and there were giant mountains kind of around the outside. So it was sort of like a flat Earth pocket dimension world with roiling clouds and these intense lightning storms. But this world was basically leeching magic and life force off everyone in it and slowly turning them into warforged robots who ended up being like just husks holding a soul. And then eventually, when they died, that soul would kind of be sucked up into the ether, and it seems like this wizard was probably harvesting the souls to power things or to do stuff with. The players don't really know because they kind of got trapped and then didn't even know who this wizard was. Turns out later, this wizard was probably hired to take them out because they're kind of wrapped up in some conspiracies in the big magical metropolis of Amaranthine. But with that being said, there was a situation where they realized that if they go to the Citadel in the middle of the pocket dimension world, which is about 4 days travel if they travel normal, maybe 2 days or less if they go hard at it, they could reach this Citadel. But all of the Warforged who were trapped in this pocket dimension, and a lot of them had come from the outside world, but they had been trapped here, and slowly all of their life force have been siphoned to where what used to be humans, elves, orcs, whatever, were now just these kind of metallic Warforged skeletons with their soul trapped and burning within their chest, and then if they died, there'd be this hissing sound and it would come out of them, and sometimes they would even kill each other and try to absorb each other's souls to try to gain some life force back. So it was kind of a wild place, but they all lived in this perpetual fear. They were so afraid. They would hide in their little mud huts and they would just peek out, and they were very afraid, and they were like, whatever you do, don't go to the Citadel. And then the players were like, well, how do we escape? And they're like, oh, there is no escape. The only way to escape would be if a savior came and saved us. And then they were like, well, what if we're the saviors coming to save you? And they're like, it's impossible. You're already in here and it's impossible to escape. Whoever's going to save us would have to do it from the outside. So the fact that you're here now means you're not the savior. You're just like us. You're just another version of us. We all thought the same thing when we first got here, and now we've realized it's impossible. You can't escape. There's no escape from this dark place. Anyway, so the player characters were like, well, what is that Citadel in the center of the world? And they're like, we do not go there. That's where the Maker goes. That's her place. And they're like, oh, the Maker, the person who built this pocket dimension. Apparently, sometimes she goes there. And they say, yeah, but there are monsters guarding it. We do not go there because anyone who goes there ends up not coming back. And those monsters will sometimes bring them back in the night and drop basically all their parts on the ground as if a warning to stay away. So they were all very afraid. They did not want to go. And they were trying to hold on to their souls as long as they could. And they really expressed this. They made it very clear. They were holding on to their souls as long as they could because they were hoping that somebody would come along and save them before their souls were absorbed by the world, because once their souls absorbed by the world, there was a pretty good strong chance that their souls didn't make it to the afterlife, but that their souls were actually broken down, deconstructed, and used as energy by this wizard. So it's like, once you're dead, you're dead. Like, it's not like you die and you continue the cycle of life. Your soul is destroyed, and that's it for you. That's it. So they were very afraid. Like, there was this kind of belief about this. Now, this kind of represents, interestingly, how sometimes religious beliefs can impact motivation. So that's an interesting thing that I enjoyed playing with in that session. But anyway, here's what the players did. The players basically were like, well, we can't just sit around here. They had already been wounded, and their wounds were quickly spreading in this gangrenous infection. And already one of the player characters, their bones were starting to turn to steel. And it wasn't like a good thing. It was like they were getting cold and clumsy and clunky and like basically becoming less effective. And magic was lessening too. They were losing ability to cast some spells. Like, it was getting harder to cast spells. And even their magic items, that there was starting to be dust flaking off of them. Like, it turns out that the magic from those is getting absorbed too. So they're on like a limited time clock. So what they ended up doing was saying, okay, we have to go immediately to the Citadel, and we have to figure out a way to get out. If there's a way out, it's probably there. And if that wizard, if the maker is there, then maybe they have the way out. We need to get it from them. And it turned out to be this female wizard. Her name was Morkali. She's just like a 300-year-old elf who apparently is really good at this kind of technology. But then again, this kind of thing isn't so unheard of in Amaranthine, in like the Magic University. Like, people are doing stuff like this all the time. And it's full of diabolical, evil, sadistic, psychopathic wizards, especially the elves. In my world, the older elves, their minds kind of break and they become psychopathic. Anyway, with that being said, one of the player characters, a paladin warlock, a Shadar Kai elf, he seemed convinced that these people should go with the group and fight with them to escape. But these people were like, no. Like, no amount of persuading would persuade them. They were like, we are absolutely not going with you. We're going to hide in our huts and wait for a savior to save us. That's our only hope. If you go there, you're going to die. We don't want to die. We don't want to lose our souls forever. Our only hope is to sit here and stay safe, keep our souls safe. And hopefully, if we live long enough, someone will come from the outside and save us and rescue us from this awful place. So, basically, there was all this talking. The group decided they were going to go, but this paladin warlock just was not content to just leave all this apparently potential, warrior manpower behind. I think he thought to himself, we could have an army. There's like 25 of these Warforged. They could come with us, and at least then we'd have better chances of defeating the wizard. So he actually used suggestion to convince the leader to tell his people to follow the Warforged. And so he did. He cast suggestion. It worked on the leader. And here was the crazy thing. Because he knew it was going to be more than an 8-hour trip, he actually convinced the leader not only to convince his people to follow, but that the leader was going to stay behind. So once the suggestion wore off, he wasn't there to say, oh no, turn around. Right? So anyway, that's what happened. Now, this raised an interesting moral dilemma, because especially one of the other player characters, who's playing a chthonic tiefling sorcerer, this character's moral compass was really like off-put by this. And basically, he called out the paladin warlock, and they had like a conversation about this, a moral dilemma conversation. And the tiefling was basically, the sorcerer was basically like, hey, listen, you are trying to manipulate these people into potentially sacrificing their souls. Yeah, they could help us. Maybe I believe they could help us, but what if they do die? What if they do lose their eternal souls, because you convinced them to come with us, and, that's it. This seems like it should be a choice they get to make. And that was and now I'm paraphrasing, and I'm maybe not getting this exactly right, but there was like a good 10-minute moral dilemma conversation. And then of course the paladin warlock was saying, well, they're trapped here against their will. Sitting around isn't going to help anything. They may as well at least fight, because nobody is coming to save them. We're the closest thing to help they're going to get. This is their best chance. This is the best chance they're ever going to have to get out of here. If they stay, they're definitely doomed. At least if they go with us, there's a chance. So that was, there's this moral dilemma, this moral conversation, and it was so cool. I think it's so cool when players actually care enough about the story. They care enough about their characters. They care enough about the moral compass of their characters. They care enough about the world, about everything going on, that they're willing to have the debate. Like, it matters to them. I think this is so cool. And this was probably the best session in this campaign yet, partly because I just felt like it flowed really well, and it's really starting to flow really well. And we had a great new 6th player who was really awesome, who played the first session with us. I'm looking out the window, some random dude I think was trying to talk to me. I think I think a homeless guy was trying to get money from me. And then when he saw I was filming, he walked away. Anyway, weird. Welcome to Springfield, friends. Anyway, so I think that this made the session so much fun. I think it made me care about the session, and I want to hear your experiences with this. Do you tend to find that your characters have great, care about moral dilemmas, moral choices? Do you find that your characters, your players, get that into the game, get that immersed? If you see this happening, do you think it is a sign that they care? Do you think it is a sign that they're invested? Or do you think that this is just a human thing? Anyone, whether they care about the game or not, can get goaded into a moral conversation. Personally, I think there's an element of truth to anyone can get goaded into a moral conversation. But I will also say that I think you can tell if it's that, or if it's that they actually care about the game and they care about what's going on. Interestingly enough, I had another player character then message me, after the fact, basically telling me, hey, my character also wasn't cool with what the Paladin Warlock was trying to do. Basically going to have words with their patron, because they actually met this Warlock's patron. She's an ancient, undead, humanoid creature. They do not understand fully her nature, and I'm not going to say it here because there's some secrets about her that I don't want to disclose for spoilers. But anyway, she lives in Amaranthine. She's the chair of the NAC, the Necromantic Affairs Committee. And she's a very powerful, aristocratic figure in Amaranthine, and very secretive. She has a bunch of businesses, and there's a whole cult. She's created an entire cult intended to worship her. So it's really, really fun and cool. Anyway, the thing is, guys, what are we doing here? If we want to play TTRPGs, we could treat it like a combat board game, which is not a bad thing. We had a lot of combat board gamey combat in this last session. It was fun. I get the appeal of that, and it's very fun. But there's also the role-playing aspect. There's the story aspect, and there's the telling the stories of the player characters. And that's not just combat, not just mechanics. There is soul in that. There's actual humanity in that. And that's part of the magic of it, is exploring human questions, human dilemmas. And so this is partly why this session resonated so much with me, and I think I enjoyed it so much, was because a lot of that humanness came through in the game and made it so much fun. It made it so much more engaging. It made me care so much more about it, right? So drop a comment. Let me know your experiences with this. I'd love to hear it. And I just wanted to share some moral dilemma story type stuff. And what do you do if your characters aren't caring that much and there aren't moral dilemmas? Well, your players, they're going to care about what they care about. And one of the best ways to get them invested in your game is, first of all, to just vet your players, make sure you only play with people who really care. And then number two, make sure that you're running the kind of game that's putting these things out there, putting things out there that they care about. Emotional resonance, okay? Emotional resonance is really important. I talk all about it in my premium ebook, The Advanced Art of TTRPG Game Mastery, how to develop that. You can grab that, links in the description. It's still available for a lower introductory price, so it's getting ready to change because my new book is going to be coming out in the spring or summer. And then this book is going to get a little more expensive. So grab it while it is still available for that price. But anyway, friends, I think that emotional resonance requires us to do some heavy lifting as game masters. We've got to present situations and PCs, dilemmas that the players actually will care about. And if you can get the players to actually care about the game, now you've set the stage for a much deeper roleplay experience. That's kind of my brief how-to on that. Anyway, I just want to talk about that experience here, just documenting the journey, friends, being a game master, trying to be a full-time paid game master in 2026. We are just in it to win it, trying to run the best games possible, become true master of the game. So thank you so much, friends, for tuning into another one of my videos. Make sure you join our free Discord, links in the description. Empowering game masters to run better games is the goal. That's the focus here on the channel. So roll some D100s for me at your next game, and I'll see you awesome people on the next one.